does not help me.
Okay, here we go. We are going live. And we are live. Okay. Loading. Oh, there we go. We're live. We are live now. Okay, welcome to DM Talks. This is the 4th time we've done this. I'm pretty sure.
4th or 5th time.
I marked it on here as the 4th, so we're going to go with the 4th. This time it is Player's Handbook and character building questions that we're going to be focusing on this time because we want to go down and just like fluctuate between the different kind of levels. So the first one was like super deep, second one was like way out there. The next one was more DMs. This one is going to be more for players and helping them, maybe helping the DM understand how to help his players better. Well, help their players better. So, roll for initiative. Dang it, I'm always last!
I go first.
Do you want me to swap places with you so you're not last this time?
I'll be blue.
I'll be green.
I'll be red.
You colorblind, James?
I am not. I'm pretty sure I'm not colorblind.
We have an error?
Interesting. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. What? Okay.
Technical difficulties.
I want to double check your OBS.
Yes. It says it's fine. So, we're going to go for it. So, Russell, you start us off.
Okay, so I had this thought the other day because of the saying of if your friends jumped off a cliff, would you follow them? And so I thought about
If I was a monk, yes.
I thought about our campaign with Adventures in Kal'Jaru, and I thought about what order would they all jump off a cliff. And this is getting to my question. Just give me a second. So the order is as follows. It would go Mirth, then Gildal,
Surprises no one.
then Garnet, and then Mirth would teleport, switching places with Zestra, so she would be off the cliff, and then Mirth would jump off again after he realized Garnet had followed him. So, the question is, if this scenario actually happened, and Mirth teleported last second before splatting onto the ground, would Zestra take the fall damage?
It's instant. I think this because if you think about it, it's instantaneous swap. So since it's not a portal, there's no momentum following it through. So you just instantaneously swap places. Mirth might land flat on his face, but he'd barely take 1 damage from that, and Zestra would probably just be at the bottom of the cliff wondering what the heck is going on.
I would probably agree with that. Like, there's no momentum there.
If you can save yourself from almost any fall with a small teleport right to the bottom. Or you can just portal your way out and hope you live.
That is an interesting question, though.
And all this stemmed from a who would jump off a cliff in what order question.
That's pretty accurate.
It is, yes. But yeah, I think there wouldn't be any fall damage if they were to teleport and switch places like that. That's one way to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Here we go.
Simple question, answered. Okay, Mirth. You're not Mirth. You're James. James, your question.
Why?
I'm so used to when we're doing D&D, it's like, you're Mirth, you're Gildal.
Okay. So, not as fun or as well thought of a question as yours, but just your guys' thoughts on the, do you prefer taking the starter equipment from the character classes or taking the buying your equipment option? What are your thoughts on buying your own equipment?
Personally, I prefer buying it because it allows you to personalize your character more. Especially if you think about backgrounds. For example, like if you were to play a criminal background, but then you wanted to play it as if you had the background of criminal, but you had basically been redeemed, and you're now like working your way to becoming a paladin or cleric, you wouldn't necessarily start with chainmail armor, just because how would a criminal really get his hands on it?
Thievery, larceny.
How are you going to pickpocket chainmail armor?
You just assassinate them.
And so it makes more sense to buy it and just kind of like personalize it, going with like what would they actually have. That, and then you have fun builds like a cowboy warlock with a boomerang. So.
It's true. It depends on what I'm building the character for. If it's a one-shot, I'll usually just do standard, but if I'm building it for roleplay, then I'll roll for the money and actually buy the stuff that that character would have.
It just feels more immersive because if you're actually going out on an adventure, it's not like your parents just come along and hand you all this great equipment.
This is what you get to start with as a fighter.
Unless you're playing legendary lineage, which would make more sense.
Yeah. Then you get a bunch of artifact grade hand-me-downs.
I don't think you would want artifact grade on hand-me-downs. Most artifacts come with pretty bad curses.
It's true. Very true. A lot of them I don't want. So I've never handed out an artifact.
Yes, you have. Or was that me? Which one of us handed out the dragon sphere?
Oh, that was you.
Oh, that was me. I was the one that touched it, though.
No, you weren't. Different quest, different campaign.
We'll explain it later.
Probably not. That also went along with one of Merlin's questions. He had asked, with equipment, roll for gold or take your standard equipment. And so, answering that, if you want more personalized role-playing, then roll for your gold. Buy what that character would have. Makes it interesting because sometimes you just don't have enough gold for what you would have had with standard. And that's another time I go with standard is if
it gives you more than you'd get.
Yeah, exactly. Or sometimes I'll take the standard, sell all of it, and buy what I want. And that gives you just a little bit more gold sometimes.
Or if you want to make it really simple, start with nothing. The whole campaign, you just start with nothing and build your way up. There's actually a written campaign, I believe it's Out of the Abyss, where you start imprisoned with nothing, except for like garbage. And so then you just have to break out of prison, kill a bunch of drone, escape. And that is literally how you start your campaign with nothing.
Interesting. That'd be a fun campaign.
And then you have to fight the Demigorgon.
Nothing.
Details.
No, thank you. Resolve?
Resolve.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, Alan.
My question is a little bit more difficult than theirs. Maybe not like difficult, but like it's a 3-part question. So, what is the difference, and I know the answer, but what is the difference between an action, a bonus action, and a reaction? Because there's a lot of players that I've played with where they try to use a bonus action for their reaction, or they try to use their reaction for an action or a bonus action, and they don't understand reactions and holding their action and all of those different little components.
Okay, so there are actually a lot of good videos on the internet already about this, but for me, I like to break it down just thinking about how long a round in combat takes, and that is 6 seconds. That is not a lot of time to do something. So, for example, potion drinking. A lot of people complain that it takes a whole action to drink a potion, but you have 6 seconds to chug a vial of who knows how good or bad tasting this liquid is. You have 6 seconds. And then you have, in that 6 seconds, also 30 feet of movement for the average player. Plus any bonus actions your character is allowed to take. And a reaction during that round if someone were to move away from you during combat to make an attack. Then, if you move on to offhanded attacks, they wonder why you're not able to make more than just the one. It's because your full hand, for example, a fighter, at level, I don't remember when they get their last. Is it max level? Level 20 that they get their last attack? So a level 20 fighter can make 4 attacks in their main hand. Then, if they were dual wielding, they could make an offhand attack. So that's 5 attacks in 6 seconds. That's really fast. Plus, if they action surge, that's math.
10.
Yes, well, that's debatable.
Yes.
It says
It's a-
it gives you another bonus action.
Potential. Potentially another bonus action.
So-
So it kind of up to the DM's discretion there. The offhand attack rules, I think, would allow it in action surge. So yes, 10 attacks. That's really fast too.
Yeah, that's lightning fast.
And then you have the shenanigans of a Tabaxi monk.
Mixing flurry of blows and a bunch of extra stuff in there.
Well, no, I was just talking about dashing a lot. Because with the Tabaxi monk, and actually, if you were to multi-class into rogue, then you could take the dash action as your action and your bonus action, and use your Tabaxi ability to times your movement speed 6 times.
Adding haste to all that, and you get...
Yes.
A mile movement in 6 seconds.
I think we just created a flash build.
Actually, it's Sonic, but yes.
Yeah. So, the difference between an action and a bonus action, like he said, is the action is pretty much what will take up the entire 6 seconds. So you have hold action, you have your dash action, your guard, you have your attack, use an item. Probably should have pulled up my little dash bar.
It's not guard, Alan, it's dodge.
Dodge. That's what it is. Dodge. So if somebody tries to attack you with a dodge, so if you use your action to dodge, somebody has to hit you with disadvantage. That's what the dodge action is. Holding your action, you are literally only holding your action.
And you have to specify what will trigger your action, and what your action will be still.
Yes. So when you hold your action, you can either attack, cast a spell, or move. That is all you can do because you're using your reaction.
Mhm.
So if you hold action, you don't get a reaction. Because if somebody moves and you use your reaction to take an opportunity attack, you lose your hold action.
In short, a reaction is something that you're springboard ready for. Like, if this happens, I'm going to do this. That's kind of what a reaction is. Or just an involuntary, oh, a sword's coming at my face. A shield there would be a good option. And to differentiate between action and bonus action, the action would probably be something that, again, takes up most of your time. And your bonus action is something you can do while doing your action, or something, it's like multitasking. It's like something so small that you don't even have to put a second of thought into this. It's done.
Yeah. And so in our quest, in Adventures in Kal'Jaru, James is always asking, can I toss them a potion? Like, always asking that. And I allow it as a bonus action because he can do that with his offhand attack. Well, not offhand attack. With his offhand while casting a spell with his dominant hand. And so it's like, would that be considered an action? Probably. But he can do it with his offhand, so I allow it.
If you consider it as a thrown attack, then it would count.
Yeah, exactly. If it's throwing an object as an attack, that would be an action. But since he's just like kind of tossing it to somebody as he's doing stuff with his other hand, I usually allow it.
Though it did end up breaking a potion once.
Yeah, I did break a potion one time. But that's beside the point, and like way ahead of what you guys are watching right now. Let's see, where
Spoilers.
Yeah. Oh, we still got a little bit of time. We'll pull up some questions from Merlin. Thank you for commenting on our Facebook page. This one's a good one. Ability scores. I think he miswrote this one because he asked if you use 3d4s or 4d4s and drop the bottom last one, but it's 3d6s or 4d6s. So, this is how he does it. Words it. So, ability scores. Rolling, also straight assignation,
Or point buying.
versus choice of assignation, versus 3d4s, versus 1d20, versus 4d6, drop the lowest, standard array, or point buy.
Well, I will take this one because I think I have the one that's used almost all of these.
I've used a good portion of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't like point buying. It doesn't allow you to really access a lot of power. I like
It doesn't
characters-
allow you to metamax.
Yes, I like my characters to be super powerful, and point buying limits you. Some people may not like me saying that, but it's true. I enjoy fighting in Dungeons and Dragons, and so if my character's not able to kill something really quick, it's not as fun. And so if I'm limited to basically one 18 stat block ability score, and then the rest of them are like
13 to 10.
yeah, it's awful. Then the other thing I don't like, and Caitlin disagrees with me on this point, is negative stats. I really don't like negative stats. And here's why. If you look at a commoner stat, they are zeros across the board, which means if your character has a negative stat, that means you went backwards by becoming an adventurer. If you started as a commoner, you went backwards.
It's true.
That means your dump stat intelligence literally got dumber for going on an adventure. Or your dump stat strength has literally gotten weaker by going on an adventure where they hike non-stop. That just doesn't make sense to me.
I can see kind of the roleplay essence for it. Like, take for instance a person built their wizard hermits, and they met either at artifice, like say an artifice or hermit actually. They've spent all their time alone and isolated, working on things. Personally, I think it makes some sense for their charisma stat to go into the negatives because they don't interact with anybody. It would make sense for them to be kind of socially awkward or not know what the heck to say or be really bad at.
But isn't their charisma their spellcasting ability?
I don't know. Not artificers. Artificers is intelligence.
It is intelligence?
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure, because that would be really funny.
Because like warlocks, their spellcast focus is charisma because they literally get their magic by making a dark deal with some kind of otherworldly thing. You're not going into that having no social ability whatsoever.
Which actually comes to point out the reason for the table for multiclassing, which limits your ability to multiclass based on your ability scores.
Yeah.
If you don't have high enough charisma, you cannot become a warlock.
Or paladin.
The demon's gonna look at you and like, you're an idiot. I'm not taking your pact.
Or as the DM could play it, they get strong-armed into a stupid pact where essentially you can't do anything, I can do anything the heck I want with you.
Yeah.
And
So
no player likes that.
Table rule that we usually go off of is if it's below 10, reroll it. There's some times where I really like to have a 10, just for role-playing. One character, I even gave him a negative, and I played that up so hard. He was a half-dragon monk, and he had -2 strength. And it was a crack-up, because I could not lift anything, but I could kill everything, because I was so fast.
And then bringing up D20 versus the 4D6 rule.
So that's the other thing. Another reason why I don't do it anymore as much, just because it does have a habit of being overpowered, is the way I roll with D20 rolling for stat blocks. And it is with that same house rule of if it's below 10, re-roll it. And you roll 8 dice and pick the highest. 6. And you choose where it goes. And those are normally the campaigns where I'm looking for more of a overpowered party because I'm planning on throwing something big at them. Or for new players who just are really bad at fighting.
So, an introductory buffer. So you guys kind of suck at this, but you have amazing stats, so you're probably not going to die to this. Or give yourself 6 D20s. Give yourself 6 20s. I don't care. Your first encounter is with a god.
Yeah. As a start, I like the D20 way less to explain to somebody. It's like, yeah, roll 4d6 minus off the bottom one. Okay, now put that in this circle. Now divide by 10 and minus 10 divide by 2, and that's your modifier, and that goes here, here, and here. No. Just have a roll a d20. That's so much easier.
My personal opinion, at least on this objectively, is the 46 rule can give you some pretty well balanced stuff, and the lowest you can possibly get with this thing is a 3, and that's if you're incredibly lucky or unlucky, depending on your point of view. But
Yes.
and the highest you can get is an 18. So it definitely adds a role playing aspect of your characters have some ground to grow here, but they're never going to be exponentially terrible. Like on average, you get scores of 13 to 17.
Yeah.
So you generally get some pretty well balanced scores around, whereas with a d20, at least the personal way I roll it, I don't re-roll anything below 10. So if I decide, okay, I'm going to start rolling for stats, here we go 8 times, and I get a bunch of 1s. I might swap out 1 or 2 of them, I'll be honest, but most of those scores would stay. Because I think you want to be able, to get the power to start off with a 20 in a stat, possibly 22 if you're adding racial stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta have to take the bite of ending up with a...
Wow.
Natural 20. You have to take the bite of ending up with a 2 or a negative score somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like it's at least necessary or granted.
I mean, when I first started and we were doing when we were doing 20s, if somebody took a stat below 10, I'd let them have an automatic 18. And so, if they have a stat below 10, they can have an 18, and then everything else they have to choose from what they rolled.
Yeah, really, it's just, once again, up to DM's discretion, and also up to player's discretion. For example, Caitlin, like, every time she plays with me, she keeps her negative stats, and I'll let her do that, just because she likes it for role-playing. Just like James was saying, it makes sense in some scenarios. To me...
A half-dragonborn with 0 strength, Alan.
It was
Okay, actually,
really
so
funny.
for example, this one actually does make a little more sense. Okay, think about a monk's life. And for example, this one, he grew up in a monastery. All he did really was meditate and work on dexterity. So, it doesn't make sense in the sense that if you're working on your dexterity, you're also going to up your strength. But he's not going to be jacked out of his mind because he's not going for muscle mass. He's going for quick, explosive power.
It was a fun character.
Yes. Role-playing is fun, but I definitely prefer my own personal characters to have no negative stats.
And no zeros.
I'm okay with some zeros. For example, I normally end up with 1 or 2 zeros to 1s on my character sheet. I'm not going to re-roll just because I got a 10. I will keep a 10.
Because the 0 scores do make a lot of sense. Like, this is just the average skill set. People learn this just by themselves. So you're not exceptionally great at it, but you're not terrible at it. So it's just down to your luck on how well you play something.
Exactly. So, like, a dumb stat intelligence, a lot of people play a 0 as being really dumb, but in all reality, unless your intelligence is negative, you're as smart as the average commoner, who, granted, are not, like, brilliant like a wizard, but they're not dumb. They know how to live and read. They're commoners.
They have basic skill sets, and since most of them are workers, they probably know more things about farming and tilling land than a wizard does. Just because your intelligence stat is so high doesn't mean you know everything.
You're book smart.
It's where wisdom comes in handy.
That's when you're street smart.
And why all my wizards were idiots.
Because perception, wisdom was a dumb stat.
And charisma.
We have time for one more question.
Okay.
We kicked that one pretty darn hard. Well, actually, straight assigning when you're rolling, just starting with strength.
First one goes to strength. I hate that.
I've never done that. I think that is ridiculous. It wouldn't give you a lot of... Like, if I started that way and then chose my class, background, and
Everything else based on
race
stats.
based on that, okay, I think that would be fun. But since I choose my class and race first, then roll my stats, I like being able to personalize it.
Yeah, I think it would be fun for flash questing.
Everyone, here are your stats. This is what you were born with. What are you going to do with it?
That is also another way of looking at it. If you were to roleplay the sense of, say you were an above-averagely intelligent orc, everyone in your family has disowned you because you decided to become a wizard because you're just so darn smart. And you're weak.
You're very weak. Yes.
I have played that though, but I still picked my class first, and I was playing a wizard, and I was dumb. And it just didn't work out, so don't do that. If you're going to pick it afterwards. But yeah, I really don't like doing it that way. I prefer choosing where my rolls go.
Okay. Do we have time for another question?
Yeah. Do you have one?
Like, how much time do we have?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Well, 4.5. We'll go with
Dang it, now I have 2. So,
I mean, technically we have like half an hour. If
We could
really
go on.
needed,
okay, so first question I had is, would you, and this is more for DMs and maybe some players if you agree to this, but can a person like completely forsake a class and just give up all those levels? Would you allow a player to, like Russell's character was a dumb wizard with no intelligence. They tried and they tried and they tried, but they couldn't do it. So they decided to give up on that and try something else. Would you let them lose all those levels in wizard and start off again on something new? Because theoretically you could lose, because you can lose all your paladin levels. Even with oath breaking, you can lose all of your paladin levels. You can, mattering on a DM, theoretically lose your warlock levels. So would you allow for like story building or just as a fun little mechanic, allow a player to give up all the levels they put into a class and try something else?
Personally, I would say no. And going off of the paladin warlock, technically they may have lost the abilities of those levels, but they technically still have those character levels, which means
and
they
experience.
keep the health and experience they have, they just don't have any of the abilities granted by that class. For example, paladins, I personally would rule that if they were above level 5, they would still have multi-attack.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're basically just a fighter that has sworn an oath, which means that they're still really good at martial weapon fighting. And if they wanted to, like, say, lose all their levels and move on to wizardry, they're still going to remember how to fight with a weapon. It's basically the same rules as multi-classing. You really wouldn't forget it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I would just probably have a multi-class. And if they, like, really want to just, like, shun it, sure, take away all their, like, magical abilities, leave their martial abilities.
So here's another idea that came to mind while we've been talking about this. Like, here's like an idea of, if you, like, say wizardry, it takes a lot of practice, intelligence, and effort to work into this, and it's a skill that you have to maintain. So if a player like multi-classes and then no longer uses wizard stuff, would make a system for like either going off in-game time or the amount of sessions that they don't use wizard abilities or spells, they would slowly start losing levels in that class.
Sounds very complicated, and really I wouldn't do it, just for the sense of, yeah, that's complicated. And the other thing is, if you think about it, when a player chooses not to use their abilities, really it's just hurting them and helping the DM. And so I wouldn't tell them anything. I'd just be like, okay, I will plan on sessions that will force them to use those abilities that they hate. And if they can't figure out that I'm planning it that way, then they'll just be bashing their sword up against the wall when they could easily cast magic on it.
It's true.
Alright.
I enjoy having sessions and, like, battles where it actually forces people to use every little thing that they have.
You've been having fun with that.
I've been having a lot of fun with that. And I like watching the players and, like, picking out how to just, like, target each person individually.
The little villain inside you.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I really like playing the Caitlyn soft side. Have you guys noticed that?
I haven't seen many of your sessions with her.
So if you watch, she has a soft side for if people die. And so if somebody dies and you guys had like bargained for money, if somebody dies, she'll turn it down. Every time. Go back and
No
watch the
offense,
sessions. It's really fun to pick on you, but
It has appeared in every single one of her characters, by the way.
yes,
I'll have
exactly.
you know that every character that Caitlin has ever played has that soft side.
Yeah, and
Just
it's
because
it's
just
not
her.
because of the character. It's just D&D reflects who we are, who we want to be, and
What we aspire to
what
become.
we aspire to become. Like, that's what D&D is. It's not just a game. Like, this is literally therapy for some people. Like, it allows people to express themselves in ways that sometimes isn't socially acceptable, and so it allows them to express it in a very orderly way.
I mean, saving a town for the sole reason that it has immensely valuable resources, and being the hero of said town gets you some decent brownie points.
Yeah.
Which actually brings me to my tabletop rule of no evil characters.
Yes.
Because when it comes down to it, yes, it can be therapy for some people, but there are certain things that people need to express in other ways, and D&D is not one of them.
Yes.
I don't want to hear about your bloodlust problems.
Yes.
Go write that down and tear it out.
Exactly.
All right. So if we have time and you guys don't mind,
Sure.
so another question I have, kind of like similar to warlocks, like making deals with things, but not exactly multi-classing into warlock. How would you handle that?
Making
Actually, in Tasha's, the newest one, Cauldron, is that what it's called?
Tasha's
Cauldron of everything? Yeah. It actually has a section about group patrons. So this is more prevalent in, they're not magical patrons. This is more prevalent in worlds like Eberron. Or in, it's not up there. We need a full-size map. In more futuristic settings, but can be done in medieval settings. So basically what it is the group is hired by a particular group. For example, in Eberron, the most common is the newspaper, where they're hired. The newspaper will then tell them, okay, this is what you're researching, you're going to do this, don't get caught, we will deny you if you are. So, and then you're basically always being paid. Similar to our fighter campaign, where your group patron is the army. You are in a military, you have to do what the military says, or you get punished for it. But the perks are, you have all the equipment you require. If something breaks, you can either buy something nice or get the basic equipment that the military will provide for you.
Free clothes, a uniform, place to sleep.
Exactly. You don't have to pay money to sleep somewhere. You just go to the barracks. They'll give you a bed. Then you also get your weekly pay, which is not something most parties get. Instead, they're getting paid in hundreds of gold pieces every time they complete a quest, but that could be months apart. They have to survive off of these big, large amounts, and if they're awful with their money, they're done for.
Unless they find hordes.
So the patron is a nice way of kind of like sticking a group together permanently when they don't want to be together. Which is kind of what I've had to do with my sister-in-law multiple times. That's the reason why we're doing a fighter campaign when they're in the military. Because now she can't leave.
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay, I think I should better explain my question, though that was a very interesting thing and that was a lovely talking point. I'm like the kind of beings that warlocks make deals with. Like a paladin going to the point where they're going to make a deal with something to give them or the party a little edge, but they're not multi-classing. So, for instance, a bard tags along with a warlock to summon a demon, and then hijacks it all and asks the demon, "Hey, can you give me night sight if I do one thing for you?"
I would consider that. I would rule that as okay as long as they're able to roleplay it well and roll high enough. That's the thing. Is part of this is of being a DM is sometimes you just gotta be like, dice don't mean anything right now. The story is way cooler without dice at the moment. Like if the player, for example, sadly he doesn't watch our videos, I don't think, I had this bard character, and it wasn't my character. I was DMing at the time, played by a good friend of mine, and he was so good at role playing that multiple times I was just like, you know what, roll with advantage. And even with his advantage, if he rolled low, I'd just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna give this to him because like the role play aspect was just so good that like I could not deny him the ability of just like having followers worshiping him. Like it was just like his role playing was so good. And so like if my players are willing to role play their hearts out for something that they really want, for example, role playing, making this deal with the devil, and like being like super subtle about it and stuff like that, I will give it to him because like that just is awesome. If you're willing to think it out and role play that, yes. Really, it just comes down to it's basically just a boon. Like it might be a minor boon, but it's a boon.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like it's just a little gift, pretty much. And a lot of demons will make deals with people. A lot of celestials will too.
I think in the 9 hells, for a couple of their layers, currency is souls.
Yeah.
So they make deals with things. It's their whole point and job.
Yeah.
That's why you work with devils and not with demons.
Yes. And if you make too big of a deal with the demon, then you might have to multi-class into a warlock.
So the big difference is warlock patrons deals are a lot more complex. It's a more permanent thing.
Yes.
Whereas instead of hey, you scratch my back, I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
So the other thing is you have to be very careful with this. And this is for a warning to all players who are wanting to pull a James in this. Not everyone is as smart as James.
Hey,
and your DM may just give you night vision for 1 minute after doing what the devil said, because you did not mention that you wanted it permanently. Or he may give you no vision until you're in darkness. So there's a lot of ways that the DM can twist your words because it's their job.
And it makes sense because typically the kinds of creatures you make deals with that would do these kinds of things for something so menial or small is they will twist it around and mess with it and get as much evil mileage out of this as they can.
Yes. It's like a wish spell on a genie.
Yes. If they can trick you into making another one to reverse what you just did, so that they can get you to do more for them, the better.
I think the best way to describe it is at least for DMs, when you're role playing a genie or a devil or something, and your player's trying to make a deal or get a wish out of it, the mindset should be try to get as much as you can for as little of a cost. The creature or NPC is trying to get as much out of this without doing hardly anything.
Or doing something that really inhibits the person.
And in most cases, they are very well conscious of the fact that I don't need you, I don't need what you're offering. If you're not willing to pay this, get the heck out. I'm done.
Very true. Very true.
That's all the questions I have for today.
Okay. That brings us to a good amount of time. So, like, subscribe if you want to watch more of these. Next time we'll probably go into more deeper questions just to keep it rotating and very interesting.
If you have more questions, leave them in the comment section or go to our Facebook page and post them there. Merlin has done a lot of that for you, and we bless you for it, Merlin.
Yes, we haven't even scratched the surface of all the questions that he asked, but we're going to cut it here. Like, subscribe, share with your friends.
Buy our merch.
Yeah, buy our merchandise. We always have the links for the Facebook page and the Teespring page down in the description. So, we love you. Watch our videos. Lots are coming out. And have a great day. End stream.
Are we off the air?